On March 2, 2017, Chirs Seelbach, a sitting Cincinnati City Council member, spoke at SHS. He came not only to celebrate the LGBTQ community at Sycamore, but also to discuss his accomplishments within the city and show other members of the LGBTQ community that they can accomplish anything and they should never let anyone or anything hold them back.
And we said, okay, well, we hear you, but we disagree with you. We think that if people hear our ideas, regardless of who I love, that they will support us. And so in 2011, I was elected and became the first openly gay person ever elected here. But I do want to back up. So Cincinnati in 1992 was actually on the verge of being a progressive city. Our city council passed an inclusive human rights ordinance that said you can't discriminate against people in the workplace or in housing or in public accommodations based on their sexual orientation. Not only did they repeal it, the language that was written into our city charter, which is our city's constitution, said that sexual orientation and gender identity could never be considered protected statuses in the city of Cincinnati. And so for almost 10 years, Cincinnati lived under what is considered to be the most anti-gay local law our country has ever seen. Not only did we not have protection, but our charter singled out gay, lesbian, and transgender people, bisexual people, and said, you are not worthy of protection. City council cannot even consider you as protected classes. And during that time, Cincinnati continued to lose population as we had been doing for over 60 years. Not only that, we lost over $50 million in convention business. So conventions who had already booked Cincinnati and who pulled out specifically citing Article 12 as the reason that they were going to another city. So people left, we lost tons of business, in addition to it being the wrong thing in our values. And so in 2002, people, and I helped lead this effort, started to organize to repeal this Article 12. And we were looking to do that in the 2004 election. If everyone, I don't know how old you all were in 2004, but this was the re-election campaign of George W. Bush. And one of his tactics that year was to put constitutional amendments banning gay marriage on the ballots of swing states to help drive out evangelical voters who would then also vote for him for re-election. Smart politically, but 13 states that year, including the state of Ohio, banned marriage equality in their state constitutions. And so that's what we were facing, a year with a lot of evangelical voters who were coming out just to vote against gay rights. But for the 2 years leading up to it, we led a campaign that I like to call the pre-Barack Obama campaign. We raised a lot of money, but how we won, we did win, was that thousands of people for the course of 2 years went door to door, having conversations with people on their doorstep. And in the training of the people who went door to door, we said, you have to say the word gay. You can't talk about equality or inclusion. We have to have these tough conversations about what it means to be gay, why gay people don't want to be protected in the workplace, in housing, and answer questions. And so, over the course of those probably 50,000 conversations with thousands of volunteers, we had really strong and difficult but life-changing conversations where I believe that the hearts and minds of fair-minded majority of Cincinnati residents were changed. And so in 2004, Article 12 was repealed not by judges or politicians, but by the voters of Cincinnati in a year when we were the only gay rights initiative to win in the entire country. As I said, in 13 states passed bans on marriage equality. So it was a super upset, big deal for our city. The council then reinstated our human rights ordinance. And since I've been elected, we've gone from a score of 60 on the Human Rights Campaign's Municipal Equality Index to 112 with bonus points, making us the 6th most LGBT inclusive city in the entire country, behind places like San Francisco and Portland. The reason we're not first is because there's some laws and protections that we just can't offer because of our city charter. We not only reinstated the human rights ordinance, but we passed a domestic partner registry. We became the 3rd city in the entire country to offer transgender inclusive health benefits to all city employees. And then a year ago, we became the 1st city in the entire country. And whenever I'm asked what was the most important thing I've done on council, for me personally, as understand this is, we became the first city in the entire country to ban conversion therapy for minors. It's a huge deal that has impacts on people's lives every single day, that someone like Leela Alcorn, if she lived in Cincinnati, may still be alive today if this ban was in place. So it's something that I'm very proud of, having experienced conversion therapy. But it shows you the importance of having true diversity in government, because it wasn't until a gay person was represented on council that these ideas became priorities. And so the LGBT work I've done was actually pretty easy because the votes were always there. However, there's other stuff that we've done that has not been easy. Cincinnati was losing population for over 60 years. Between 2000 and 2010, 10% of our population moved out of the city. And just government 101, how we fund police officers and pay for roads, health centers, it's all through taxes, right? So people pay the income tax, the property tax, the sales tax. And when you lose population 10%, that means you're losing 10% of the people who are paying those taxes. And so for so many decades, we were dealing with deficits. And the conversation was, what are we going to cut? Who are we going to lay off? And so I really ran to change that and say, let's stop competing with Westchester, a suburb, and let's start competing and spending money on the amenities that would allow us to compete with other urban cities. So when you go to Chicago, you don't say, show me your suburb. You say, and you expect to see good public transportation, a lot of fun things to do, walkable neighborhoods, a thriving arts and entertainment scene. And Cincinnati had not been focusing on those things. And so in the last 6 or 7 years since I've been on council, it is what we focused on. And the transportation element is much bigger than the streetcar. It's our Metro bus. It's an exchange off I-71 at MLK to open up access to our uptown area. It's making sure that the biggest factor in a safe city is not police and fire officers. They're incredibly important, and we've increased the numbers every year. But the biggest factor in having a safe city is not having buildings that are falling down and boarded up and sidewalks that are crumbling. It's development. It's having businesses that are open, people that are walking on the street. And so we've really focused on incentivizing development and tried to do it in a meaningful way that doesn't push people out of the neighborhood they want to live in. Energy that's produced from coal or dirty energy, and I think making us one of the most green cities in the country. This past year, we extended paid parental leave to all city employees, not just women, and not just to people who have biological children. So if you are a parent, whether you adopted or you had a child yourself, and if you are a man or a woman or a gay couple, you now have up to 6 weeks paid leave from the city. Just to give you a little, I am running for re-election this year, so I want to talk to you a little bit about why I'm running for re-election, what I think the challenges are going forward. So while Cincinnati is absolutely experiencing a renaissance and people are moving back to our city, jobs are being created, the reality is that 50% of families still live in poverty. And a lot of times people say 50% of kids often live in poverty in the city, but that's not actually accurate, because kids don't have low-income jobs. Kids don't have access to transportation. It's their parents or their grandparents. And so we have to do a better job of creating good-paying jobs and having access to those jobs, mostly through our Metro bus system, which needs to be expanded. Second, one of the largest challenges we face is a heroin epidemic in Cincinnati. The numbers, just this past week, there was a 24-hour span where 4 people died from heroin overdoses. And we're seeing that heroin is being laced with some other chemicals, and when we see these bad batches is when we see dozens of people die in a month. And we have to do something about it, that we're not doing, what we're doing now isn't working. And it's a very large problem that I'm not going to solve it myself, but the piece of it that I'm working on is there's a direct correlation between heroin use and people getting STDs, mostly hepatitis C. And so between 2001 and 2015, the average number of acute hep C cases was around 400 a year. In 2016, it was over 800. So we're seeing this incredible spike in hep C cases directly related to heroin because people are using dirty needles. And so I am proposing in this budget that we fund a syringe exchange program where you can exchange a dirty needle for a clean needle, Because you can get sober, right? You can get off drugs, but if you have HIV or Hep C, that will last your whole life. And an even better statistic, and I think this is why this is so important. So 1,300 people a month currently. So we have a Syringe Exchange Program that's privately funded. The funding is running out. That's why I'm asking the city to take it over. Currently, 1,300 people are using this program. And we know that 10% of them are connected to services to get off of heroin through the Syringe Exchange Program. So 130 people are getting access to help them get off heroin every month because of the Syringe Exchange Program that costs less than $200,000 a year. Every week and sometimes daily, it feels like another minority group is under attack. At 5 o'clock today, I've organized a rally for transgender young people where we're expecting 500 people to turn out to say that regardless of what Donald Trump does or says, we're going to fight to make sure that trans young people are safe in schools. But the third reason I'm running is to really be a buffer to all of this hate and exploitation and rights that are being taken away from minorities, whether they're people of Muslim faith or Jewish faith or women or trans people. It's really going to be up to local and state governments to ensure that those people aren't marginalized, immigrants aren't marginalized, aren't rounded up. And so we have to do everything we can in our power as a local government to ensure that those people are not only safe, but feel valued as part of our diverse community. So those are the three reasons that I hope to be on council another 5 years. So with that, I'd love to have a conversation and answer any questions, or if you just have something you want to say. You know, I don't. I will tell you that I think that where anti-gay or anti-LGBT discrimination happens is not necessarily based on someone's sexual orientation or gender identity, but based on masculine and feminine stereotypes. So a guy who's more feminine, regardless of sexual orientation, and a woman who is more masculine. I think that is where we see actual discrimination take place. But I will tell you that there's a great quote from Shirley Chisholm that says, if you're not given a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. For the first time for so many of these meetings and where big decisions are making, gay people don't have to bring a folding chair. And I think having that perspective of an LGBT person, of someone who's never had a real chair at the table, has opened up a lot of eyes. I mean, I spoke in front of 1,000 business leaders, people like Procter & Gamble CEO, the owner of the Reds, the Bengals, last week, mostly white men audience, straight Christian white men audience. And someone asked, what does it mean to be transgender? So to be able to answer that question in front of people that are literally making decisions that affect all of us, and probably had never really heard a definition of what it means to be transgender, is incredibly powerful, and I feel very grateful and lucky that I'm able to have that role. So. But no, I don't feel like I've ever been discriminated. I mean, I'm 100% in support. I think that we should do whatever it takes to make sure that families aren't split apart and that they aren't sent back to countries where they could be killed as soon as they enter. I will tell you that there's been a lot of fuss over what we did a couple weeks ago in Sanctuary Cities. What we did was a non-binding resolution. It was basically saying City Council and the Mayor support immigrants. It wasn't a law that we passed. So while I'm personally very supportive, the idea that we did something that's going to cause us to lose federal funding, it's just not true. But the reality is federal immigration officers have every right to come to Cincinnati and enforce whatever law they pass. So if Donald Trump or federal officers want to come in and round up immigrants and do whatever they want to with them, they can do that. What we have said is that our city police department, who is our local law enforcement, is not going to have any part of that. Their job is not to enforce federal law. It's to enforce city and state laws and to make sure that people are safe, even if they're an undocumented immigrant. So the streetcar project was $150 million. About $100 million came from the federal government. It is exactly 0.0015 of the amount of money that we've spent in the last 6 years. So 99.8% 8, something like that, has been spent on something else. But absolutely, the streetcar has got a lot of attention. Our budget every year is $1 billion. So, a couple things. The streetcar has two main purposes. The one is to help economic development. So we know that if you have fixed rail in a street, that it sends a sign that there's going to be people coming and going from that exact location for decades, maybe a century to come. And so that helps developers want to redevelop the property, open businesses, develop housing. We've seen hundreds of millions of dollars in development along the streetcar line that people who are doing it say is directly related to the streetcar. GE brought its corporate headquarters downtown, $90 million building. They did so, and they came from the suburbs. They did so because they wanted to be on the streetcar line. So one is to help incentivize economic development. No doubt that has been very successful. The other part of it is the transportation element, to get people from jobs to housing to bars to entertainment. And we have seen a drop in ridership. The first month, September, we beat projections by 200%. But over these colder months, and because we've had some problems with the real-time displays and blockages, we've seen a drop in ridership that we have to fix. Cincinnati Bell is our sponsor, and we're working every week with them to increase the riderships. I think that once the weather breaks and people are back downtown for the Reds games and Finley Market, Fountain Square, that we're going to see a huge increase in ridership. But what the media tells you and what you hear on Road Talk Radio is not always the truth. We are still beating expectations overall ridership because the first 2 months were so successful. I'm very active on social media, and so I'll tell you what happened. Last week, a trans person reached out to me on Facebook and said, "Are you speaking at a rally for transgender young people?" This is right after the Trump administration signaled that they were rolling back policies on transgender students in public schools. And I said, "I am not speaking at one, but if there is one, I will speak at it." And they said, "There's not one, but why don't you do one?" And so literally we put a Facebook event together. I reached out to leaders in the trans community because I wanted to make sure at least 50% of the speakers were trans. Because just like all communities, people who are not trans are cisgender. So people who identify with the birth or the gender that was assigned to them at birth are called cisgender, which I am. And so just like the gay community doesn't like outside groups to come in and lead their work, the trans community doesn't either. So I wanted to make sure that even though I was going to organize this event, it was mostly trans people who were going to be speaking. And so we created a Facebook event. We got the right speakers, including trans young people, and people put the word out. So that we're expecting 500, over 2,000 people say they're interested on Facebook. So it literally is just being elected gives you a platform that if you use it right, can organize these kind of things. So it should look on your local news. We're going to have every news outlet there. The reality is we're not going to get everyone sober tomorrow. And so while people are using, the needle exchange program will ensure that they don't also contract an STD, that when hopefully they are ready to get sober, they won't have to live with something like Hep C or HIV the rest of their life. So Syringe Exchange Program have been controversial, but when people truly understand the facts, 99% of people get on board because they understand that just like abstinence only is unrealistic, getting every single person off of heroin tomorrow is unrealistic. So we have to live in reality and understand that people are going to do heroin. They are. And we want them to use a clean needle so that they're not spreading STDs. Today, so I mean, I can't. So he said, "When's the best time to come out?" And I said, "Today." I mean, being in the closet, not telling your true self, is so much work. I mean, it's work of, so do you have a girlfriend, or do you have a boyfriend, or why aren't you dating, or, all of those things is so much work, and you never have those genuine relationships because you're always holding a big part of yourself back. And so it is so freeing and just such a better life experience once you're your true self and you can tell people who you are. And nowadays, it's so much easier than there was one gay person in my high school that was out. He was bullied and tormented every single day. I think we've come a long ways from there. And so while it's still difficult, it's so much better being out and enjoying your life and just being who you are. And then like I didn't have a boyfriend or I didn't have a first kiss until after I was 18. So I missed out on all of those things that should happen when you're a teenager. So I think you should, if you're in the closet, you should come out too. GLSEN, Gay, Lesbian, Straight Education Network, PFLAG, which is Parents and Lesbian, Gays, and Trans People. It's basically a support group for parents or friends. There's so many resources that can help you cope and deal and thrive, and then also for your parents or whoever, they need those resources as well. The best response to that is, did you always know you were straight? I mean, it's kind of the same thing. It's like, as soon as those hormones start coming and puberty starts coming, the same way that straight people know they're straight, gay people know they're gay. So, so as soon as puberty happened, I knew that and back then, I'm 37, so in the early 90s when I was a teenager, the only people that I knew who were quote-unquote gay were drag queens on Jerry Springer. I mean, literally, that was what I thought gay was. There weren't any athletes or politicians or celebrities. I mean, this was pre-Ellen coming in. After Ellen came out, and I would watch her show and laugh hysterically. It's kind of like a signal to my parents of, maybe I might be gay. So, but things were much different back then. Coming out now, I can't imagine how great it is to know that you can truly do whatever you want in life and be who you are.
Thank you to Chirs Seelbach for coming to SHS and discussing these topics with our students, and thank you for celebrating Diversity Week with us.